Russell Westbrook. You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to Party on Broad. If you're new to the channel, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that fun stuff. Today, we got a special show. I think joining for the third time, my man Shamus. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Shamus_Clancy from Bleeding Green Nation. What's up, man? Thanks for joining.
What's up, dude? Happy to be back on the show.
Let's go, man. The Eagles got the L yesterday, but I think there was a lot to be positive about. We're going to kind of just run through the top storylines, and let's just jump right in. We all know last night begins and ends with Jalen Hurts, man. What were some of your main takeaways with Jalen Hurts, and how would you grade his performance versus the Steelers?
But the thing I was most concerned about is the first series they go out there and it's 3 and out and he's 0 for 2, like has 2 bad passes on second and third down or something like that. It's a 2-yard run on first down with Miles Sanders didn't play, but they had Jordan Howard getting a lot of first team reps with the first team out there. I think you have to be encouraged by it. The thing that I think myself and I'm sure a lot of other people out there with their concerns with Hurts lie with that intermediate accuracy, those throws over the field, those tight window throws that you're going to need to do to excel in the NFL beyond just the magic he can make with his legs and the way he can sling the deep ball down the field. Picked up, that 34-yard, I believe it was, kind of crossing route to Dallas Goedert. That was huge. That's a throw that we really didn't see him make last year. And again, that was a small sample size, so we didn't really have maybe the chance to do so. But to see him do that was encouraging as well. We had a couple drops, whether that throw, 2nd and 10 to Jalen Reagor, low throw, not the best throw from Jalen. Have been caught by the other Jalen there. And then I believe on a 3rd and 7 hit Zach Ertz, again, a tight end, something that Jalen Hurts historically has struggled with in his career. I don't know if struggle is the right word, but just hasn't connected well with his tight ends. He had 80 career touchdown passes in college across Alabama and Oklahoma. Only 15 of them were to tight ends. So that shows you that that's not necessarily his go-to read. But because they had an improved offensive line, on that first series, they had the true starting 5 out there. That allowed Jalen to throw the ball early on, making those quick throws on his first progressions. He's not even going to his 3rd or 4th read, making those quick throws, which is, again, he held onto the ball longer than any quarterback in the NFL last year in the time that he played. Again, a smaller sample size. But I think it illustrates the type of quarterback he is in terms of making things happen, and also speaks to the way the offensive line was so poor and, had to mash unit out there last season with the infinite number of offensive line. It's what if. It's the multiverse out there with the offensive lines they were running last year.
I love it. It's a huge nerd. I appreciate that.
I know, man. Yeah. And then so that's a throw that should have been caught by Ertz, and you don't know what that drive happens there. It's a scoring drive. They get a field goal. I think that's a huge win. They get another first down on the second drive there. He ends up with 3 for 7 passing. Not great just looking at the box score. But if you watched the game, I think, given some of the concerns we've had with Hurts on the offseason, the way that the offense has looked so up and down during training camp, I think you have to come away, a little bit more confident. Hurts, seeing him finally in a real game in Nick Sirianni's offense than you were just a couple of days ago. So I'll give him a nice B-.
I'm in that B.
Or an encouraging one, like you got a couple C's, the first semester in or the first quarter in school, and then you get your next exam and you get a B-. You're like, okay, I'm on the up and up right now.
He's got the pat on the back from dad. I'm in that B area. I thought he looked decisive. I thought I liked the way he scanned the field. My favorite play, you nailed on it, was that connection 30-plus yarder to Dallas Goedert there. That was terrific. I love seeing attack that mismatch. And the play that I also go to is the play that there wasn't anything. It was when he escaped pressure and threw the ball away, unlike something that we would see from like Carson Wentz, where you would just get sacked.
Triple coverage.
Yeah, exactly. Or throw the interception or something along those lines. You nailed it about the tight ends. I was going to go on that. I don't need to touch on it. You crushed it. That is great to see him build that chemistry with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, as we've heard over the last few days of training camp. There's no question that Jalen Hurts had command over the offense. I don't think anybody who watched that game, everybody knows that he belongs. That was like a huge positive that Jalen Hurts is, definitely trending upward. Let's go on to the other big story, I think, and that is Quez Watkins, one of, if not the star of the game. What was your takeaway from Quez? Do you think he could eventually move into a starting lineup role with the Eagles, man?
it's hard to keep him out, right? It's not just that he had this game, that he had this one play. It was really two plays. He should have had that 79-yard touchdown. He should have had a 98-yard touchdown too. Jalen Hurts threw him just slightly over him in first and 10 from their own 2-yard line on where their second possession start. But quick aside, I'd like that they got a first down when they were backed up. That showed some moxie right there, not to panic when he was back in the end zone. Like he had that safety or whatever it was fumble against the Cardinals when they were backed up in the first quarter last season in Week 15. But Quez, he's been the story of training camp for this offense. We've read and we've heard that the offense has been so inconsistent in camp. But the I don't want to say lone bright spot, but the thing that's been shining most consistently is Quez Watkins. And you have a situation where Devontae Smith's out. Whenever he's back on the field, he's wide receiver one. He's probably going to be in that X route, X receiver. And I think there's a chance that, Watkins could or maybe even should supplant Fulgham this place. I think they kind of wanted Fulgham to kind of take the job, take the reins based on what they saw from him last year. But it's going to be a situation where it's hard to keep him off the field. If you just looked at the Eagles three for including Hightower, and you said, just looking at Reagor and Watkins, said which one of these guys was drafted in the first round, which one of these guys was drafted in the sixth round, you would think they were opposites. And because of that pedigree and the expectations that are thrust upon them, and especially because of the way the organization has invested upon them, they want Reagor to take that job. They want him to take the reins, the way they said they wanted Jalen Hurts to take the reins. So Quez, I feel like, is on the outside looking in as a starter, but when he gets snaps out there, and I think we are going to see some 4 wide receiver sets, some things spread out to, more play to Jalen Hurts' skill set, even though we have seen more tight end work than I really imagined we would at this point in training camp in the preseason. But it's hard to keep that guy off the field. It wasn't a one-game blip. And, we're not going crazy here and saying he's Tyreek Hill, but the breakout reminds me of, and a little bit necessarily not build, but speed-wise, is the way Victor Cruz erupted in that first preseason with the Giants and seemed like a guy who might have been cutting on the street. Otherwise, had a really solid NFL career and had a bunch of great plays in that training camp in the preseason and, turning himself into a valuable player on a Super Bowl team. And I'm not saying Quez Watkins is going to be a Super Bowl hero or anything like that, but I think he's more than a jag. I don't think he's just a bottom end receiver that you cycle through. I think he could be an integral part of this offense, whether that's at the starting wide receiver spot on the outside opposite of Devontae Smith, or they just mix things up. And I like the idea of having Reagor in the slot really too, because I think what we've seen the last couple of years with Greg Ward out there, Greg Ward's a good story. Greg Ward's fun. Greg Ward is a reliable target, but just no juice whatsoever, consistently ranking, last in yards per route per run amongst receivers across the league the last couple of years. Having a vertical slot guy there, a fast guy there, which plays the Hurts skill set so well as a deep ball thrower, speed. How do you keep the guy off the field?
Yep. No, and I do think he's probably going to take a lot of Jalen Reagor's targets right now. I definitely see him either on the outside or the slot. And I do think the loser of last night was Greg Ward. And I love Greg Ward. I really do. He's my guy. Everybody makes jokes about it here at the Painted Lines, but there's no question, man. If you put now Jalen Reagor in that slot which he assumes to be he's happy there. He's gaining confidence that we need to see, not like we didn't see in 2020. It's another weapon for this offense in Jalen Hurts to be able to take the top off of defense and have another guy to target downfield. So of course, Quez was absolutely incredible. To see a short pass turn into a 79-yard reception is something that we haven't seen in quite some time.
That's an Andy Reid era screen game. We didn't get that at all, even really with Chip when they had LaShawn and Sproles, and certainly not during the Wentz-Peterson era. I mean, for all of Wentz's highs and lows, the screen and short game really wasn't his forte. And again, we talked about how Hurts might struggle with accuracy in the middle of the field or on those intermediate routes, but I think that short game with some speed on the outside between Watkins and Reagor and even Smith, that's going to be really fun and some classic Eagles football that we kind of grew up with during the Andy Reid era.
Watching young receivers on the Eagles take the next steps in their development is not something I'm accustomed to as an Eagles fan. It's just so refreshing. Watching this guy in open practice make that contested catch.
I wasn't there, but that seemed awesome, right? Were you there for that?
I was not, but I was like all over it when the media started coming out on Twitter.
Going to the second one next Sunday.
Nice. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is like I envision Quez as that speed guy, as that Z guy. He's making contested catches. He's showing you good route running. That is something major to look forward to this season. Let's roll on to outside of Quez Watkins, outside of Jalen Hurts, was there anyone else on offense that stood out to you last night?
Melada, right? I know the idea that left tackle job was a competition is total BS, and I'm sure you're on that wavelength too. And again, it kind of speaks to what I talked about with Reagor versus Quez and expectations in the way that the organization has invested draft capital on these players. The Eagles traded up for Andre Dillard. Jordan Mailata was the 7th round pick they got that cute story. Let's teach this, Australian rugby player how to play football. And wouldn't it be hilarious if he turned into an all-pro left tackle? And it looks like that's not impossible for that's going to happen. And Dillard has dealt with some poor injury luck in his short career already, but it seems like even regardless of that, Mailata is the guy. He looked great out there. And, they need a young anchor on that offensive line. Their center through right tackle are all pro caliber players, but they've dealt with injuries in their career, especially Brooks and Lane. Being up there next season, for all we know, like Jason Kelsey and Brandon Brooks could not be in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So it is good to see that you have one young player stepping up and not just being a competent starter, but a guy who seems like he actually has Pro Bowl potential at 23, 24 years old.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. And a guy that I wasn't sure about where he's going to go or where he fits on this roster is Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard, he only had 1 carry for 3 yards, but man, when you can, this season is all about protecting Jalen Hurts. Everything boils down to having a full evaluation at the end of this season on Jalen Hurts. And if you can pass protect like we saw from Jordan Howard in that one, he just
pancake.
He did Robert Flynn there. Last night. It was absolutely terrific. That guy is always going to have a spot on my roster. Jordan Howard didn't have flashy stats, but that's a play that really stood out to me, especially when you look at last year and how many times Eagles quarterbacks were in the dirt. So another guy, it's kind of like not fair, but it's not offense, it's special teams. I got to give some love to Jake Elliott. I don't know how many people are talking about Jake.
He needed that confidence reboost, having 2 47s and a 50-yarder for as up and down as hits his extra point too, a huge thing too.
What's that?
I thought the same thing with Jake. Go perfect in the preseason, get back into that 2017 mindset.
Yeah, man, he had 3 for 3 last night, 47, 47, and 50. He had more field goals for more than 47 yards last night than he did in all of 2020. So that is an absolutely crazy stat. So that is really good.
New holder, too, getting used to that, too.
True. Well said. Let's roll on to Nick Sirianni, man. We got our first taste of Nick Sirianni's play calling. Do you have any quick takeaways from Sirianni's scheme at all?
Well, we heard in the training camp again, so inconsistent, they were getting overmatched by their defense. And it seemed that the offense ran pretty smooth in the first half. They had 265 yards of total offense in the first half. A lot of that is obviously on that huge, throw behind the line of scrimmage to Quez, and he goes, 79 yards to the house. But still, I think even when Flacco was in there, Flacco played pretty well. And it seemed like, the plays were designed pretty well. Again, he can't take away too much stuff. He's not going to be showing the nit and gritty and his best plays of the playbook during the first quarter of the first preseason game. But they both Hurts and Flacco to different degrees were able to get in some sort of a rhythm. And I think that's all you can ask for when you have a new coach working with new players.
Yeah. First of all, there was very minimal penalties. This team was clearly ready to go from the jump, something that we haven't seen in previous regimes. But I go to, that mystery of offense. Clearly, it was a vanilla offense. We didn't really see that much. But for me, there's that unknown factor about this offense that really has me excited, like that RPO offense for Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. You look at last year, 37 RPOs for Jalen Hurts last year, 198 yards throwing, 140 yards rushing. That's 9 yards per play. The potential is there. And that's the chemistry that we're going to get, starting out the gate. They're clearly on the same page, which was a concern I had, obviously, considering all you heard in training camp was the defense was here, the offense was here. It was a very, very good showing for me for Nick Sirianni. And the biggest take I have for Nick Sirianni's offense wasn't even like a positive play. I go to that first and goal bomb to Quez Watkins where Jalen Hurts just missed him. I respect him for taking his shots there.
Yes, absolutely.
I like that play. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, you want to energize these guys. It's their first preseason game playing. I mean, Quez Watkins and Jalen Hurts, their first preseason game ever. Obviously, we didn't even have the preseason last year. That's instilling some confidence in those guys, even though the game is ultimately meaningless. It is a full game speed, full tackle situation against another opponent that you're not practicing and going against every single day to say, hey, we're at our own 2-yard line right now, but hey, F it. Throw it out there and see what happens. I like the energy of it.
Absolutely. I just like the fact that, Sirianni is not afraid to go downfield. And that's something that I think Jalen Hurts and our burners at wide receiver like Quez Watkins will really benefit from. Let's go to the other side of the field, and we're talking Jonathan Gannon. What were your kind of first impressions with his defense? Do you have any takeaways?
Yeah, I thought maybe because it's the preseason, we didn't really see it, but I expect during the regular season, we're going to see a lot of different defensive fronts from Gannon. In the training camp practices, we've seen him use both 4-3 and 3-4 looks. It looked almost exclusively that they used 4-3 last night. The only time I can remember was right before the 2-minute warning in the first half. They'd used 3 down linemen and 1 stand-up rusher in that joker bull rushing role. And I thought we were going to see more of that otherwise, but again, the same way we talked about Nick Sirianni's offense being a tad vanilla in the first preseason game, I think that's something we're going to see more so in the regular season. But I think that can speak to how they're going to use some of these players. Milton Williams came into the NFL draft cycle as a defensive tackle, but we've seen him do a lot more work at end, and I think he played pretty well in that first preseason game. Collapsed the pocket a couple times, didn't get a sack, but helped lead to one for T.Y. McGill. I think he's a stud. He's the guy I wanted the Eagles to draft in the 3rd round before the draft even started. I'm huge on that guy, and I think having some situations where maybe it's a 3 down lineman set where he plays as defensive tackle out there with a true nose tackle playing defensive tackle, and he's kind of in that 3-4 defensive end role. I'm really excited to see what we could have from him. And I think most of the first teamers played well. It's an improved secondary with Anthony Harris and Steven Nelson inserted into the lineup this year. And I think they have legitimate linebacking core for the first time in forever.
Yeah, I love the way Gannon's defense was flying, especially the defensive line. Hargrave was everywhere.
Yes.
Singleton was everywhere. Like that whole front 7 was really playing well. Or even when Jacquet missed coverage downfield, he came back and made a really good tackle on the next play. They seem to be just coached up a lot better defensively. Seems to be kind of that. Again, it's very small sample size, but like that bend not break type of defense. But we'll see. They clearly are trying to do a lot of off coverage and take away the big play and try and funnel all the opposing offense in that short to intermediate range. We'll see what happens with that. But you already nailed it, man. We're talking about guys that stood out on defense. For me, it was Milton Williams. Yeah. Absolutely Milton Williams, man. That guy was an absolute stud last night. Did he get a sack? I don't think he got a sack.
I don't think he got a sack, but there were some pressures in there for sure.
Dude, just like you said, collapsing the pack. The fact that you have a 6'4" beast that can play on the edge, and he absolutely looked like he has the speed to be there. I'm really excited for how he's going to make an impact on this defensive line, inside, outside, all over the place. I expect Gannon to really throw him everywhere, and that's exciting. What about you? Any guys that stood out for you?
I think Singleton, too, and I think Anthony Harris had a nice pass breakup. Michael Jacquet kind of got beat a couple times deep, but he did make a really nice tackle or two out there, so I respect him coming back and laying the wood, even though he kind of got burn a little bit, and we've seen that a lot from him last year. Didn't really see a lot from Zach McPherson. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's almost good sometimes when you don't hear a cornerback's name. I think the same way you think about offensive linemen or long snappers or holders or kickers. But he seemed like someone who's really, really made some waves during training camp. And if they didn't sign Steven Nelson, he in a situation where he could have been a 4th-round rookie starter on the outside cornerback because of how thin they were there. But again, Milton Williams, I think the whole defensive line, everyone out there, T.Y. McGill had a nice game. And, Javon Hargrave, I think, really struggled at the beginning of the 2020 season, was dealing with some injuries, but came on strong at the end of the year. I think with a full healthy offseason, we're seeing his real potential come through when the Eagles gave him that, whatever it was, $26 million guaranteed, $36 million guaranteed last offseason.
All right, man, let's wrap it up. Overall, dude, how would you grade the Eagles' first preseason game versus the Steelers? Overall,
I'll give it a solid. I gave Hurts a B-, taking into consideration the defense and the way Quez and some of the second-team offensive guys worked. I think I'm going to give them a solid B. They didn't lose the game. Not that it actually matters for crap in the preseason, but it wasn't this. I did a podcast on it recently. The 2015 Eagles preseason game against the Packers in Green Bay, where everyone was going crazy thinking the Super Bowl contenders. That's an A preseason game. You don't really see a ton of those, but getting a B in the preseason for me, I think, is definitely a win for the entire first team, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams as well. I like that you brought up Jake because I wouldn't have thought to.
Love it, man. Love it. Just want to say thank you for joining, man. Where can we find you? What do you got going on, man?
Sure. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Shamus_Clancy. Do a ton of podcasting and writing for Bleeding Green Nation. So you go to bleedinggreennation.com or check out on your podcast platform of choice, BGN Radio. I host a weekly show on there titled From the Bleachers, and I'll be doing some more different content on different shows for them this upcoming season. So excited for that as well. And then if you like my tweets, if you like my writing, if you like my guest appearance on here, you can always check out my Philadelphia Daily Philly Sports Daily newsletter, patreon.com/Shamus_Clancy, the From Broad Street with Love newsletter. Do it every day. Kind of my passion project, my little journalism baby. So if you like the content, definitely check that out too.
All right. I'm going to put all those links down in the description.
Appreciate it, my man.
Of course, man. Everyone go follow Shamus Clancy at Shamus_Clancy on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back for, I got Zach Berman on Monday. We're going to talk some football. We're going to take a little break and get ready for Sixers action tomorrow night. But for Shamus, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
And the Sixers win it! Wow!
Oh, man, and being just posterized Russell Westbrook. You love the